they were like, we got somebody, and it seems like a perfect match across the board. Means, motive, opportunity, like DNA, circumstantial evidence, car, GPS, like locked down, clean conviction. You would think. This is a really tough case. I want to just encourage everyone to just take a deep breath, because this is a really scandalous case, and I've already seen communities run with something that seemed pretty clear-cut and then go in the wrong direction. So again, we are talking genealogy reports, we're talking car in the area over state lines, we're talking means, motive, and opportunity. Everybody who said something bad about the Moscow Police Department in terms of, this case is like JonBenet Ramsey and the crime scene is ruined, needs to take it back, because this case is broken so wide open, and we have it sounds by all accounts, and I'm reading it from public information, same as you, but it sounds like we have a, not a Dahmer, but a Ted Bundy kind of situation where this guy is like a deliberate, angry charm monster. That's if the allegations are true, if they even have the right person. But news is coming out, and it's suddenly this really makes sense. Everyone was kind of scratching their heads. But let's get right into it. It does seem, and I'm just going to refer to him as the killer here. And again, hot off the heels of all these wrong theories when we didn't have any suspect. So I'm just going to say the alleged killer. So the alleged killer is said now to have been a PhD student in criminal justice, and news media is going crazy with this. Like, they're talking about, he was trying to prove a point. There's a few famous criminology cases where a killer, usually a disaffected, kind of young white male, these are, cases in the West, of course, who kills somebody to prove he can do it, to prove that society is just a joke and he's so much smarter than everyone that he's just going to do this and get away with it, which, arguably that's every serial killer, so, But somewhere in there, it was one of those killings, and, it seems completely targeted randomly, because, of course, the person in custody for this killing is really, he hasn't made any statement, and that's smart. You wouldn't want to make any public statement to the news or anything, especially he was being transferred from custody into this courtroom, and there was already so many news reporters going. There was one guy in the back, you could hear him clearly shouting, "Why did you do it? Why did you do it?" Like cutting over everyone else, just screaming questions at him. So I don't blame whether this guy is guilty or innocent. He's making the right move by staying quiet. That said, you'll see a lot of pictures, and people are making jokes that he looks like certain characters on TV who are dishonest and stuff like that. He definitely has a very intense stare, and it's hard to know before we hear more from him what that means. But this was, it seems like a dyed-in-the-wool, just classic guy killing to get away with it. So this is something that got kind of buried. But I covered in my last video that in Idaho, around this area, someone found a butchered dog. And, no evidence of it being related, but people said, if this is a serial killer, that's the classic progression. If this is somebody who's practicing killing because that's the hobby that, the transgression of that is what interests them, then we would find these kind of things. The other thing is that, so they're working pretty hard from GPS data. So the alleged killer's GPS pings were in this area. It seemed that he had crossed state lines, and also footage of his car. So, maybe the defense attorney will try to argue something, but it seems clear enough to reason that he was driving his car with his cell phone in his pocket around this university campus, and he might have mixed it up with, let me pull up this, there's a timeline that runs early into the night, because of course the killings happened in the middle of the night, and that's another thing. So there were survivors who have made witness statements before I get to the source, there were survivors who made witness statements, and everyone is now already dogging on them, why did you take 8 hours to call the police? And people are defending them and saying, it was a shock trauma thing. It seems like he might have met these people, followed them home, but witness statements are saying that he was, in a mask, this was premeditated. This wasn't someone flipping out. This was an incredibly calculated thing. Even going across state borders, which is, Israel Keys, was a serial killer who took a long time to get caught, and it was because he would go years in advance and he would bury the tools he would use. He would pay for it in cash 5 years ago, bury it in the woods 5 years ago, 5 years later, he would go across state lines because, that now the FBI is the one who has to try to piece this together. And if you're really quiet, the FBI might not notice for a while. So he'd go across state lines and then and just kill people and then dip out. And it seemed like he was doing that. It seemed like this new killer, if the timeline is correct, that was doing it precisely that, was just trying to mix it up with some college students who were out, follow some home, and specifically do this and then get away with it because he lives in a different state. He's a student in a different state. Why would he be there unless someone got footage of his car and was able to be like, this is him specifically, and then get the permission to track his GPS data. But they did it. Okay, let me pull a few things from these articles because I'm worked up. I'm going. All right. So the first one says how authorities identified the Idaho killing suspect of using public genealogy data. And this is a huge thing that I feel very ambivalent about. It's very controversial because, so if anyone in your family has used a DNA kit, then yeah, the police have your DNA. So like anytime, if you leave blood at a crime scene under any circumstances and anyone closely related to you has used one of these genealogy kits, the police can just request that and get it and they'll find you. FYI, little inside baseball. But that's how they got the Golden State Killer. That's how they got the Golden State Killer after he got away, after he killed people in the 70s and stuff. Got away, started a new life. His little great niece or something like that, some relation, did 23andMe. Scratch that. I don't know what genealogy it was. And I'm not sure which ones. That would actually be a good future research. Are all the companies equally transparent with law enforcement about genealogy data they get? I'll look into this and report back. Remind me in the comments if I take too long. But, so what was I saying? Okay, so this Idaho killer is another example of that, where, let's see if we know yet who got him got. So authorities recovered the Idaho killing suspect DNA from a knife sheath found at the crime scene. They matched it with DNA from the suspect's father in Pennsylvania, recovered from their trash. From the suspect's father in Pennsylvania, recovered from the trash. See, that's a bad look. So he carried... Yeah, that's a really bad look. This might be kind of open and shut. Honestly, again, the Idaho PD actually did an immaculate job because this guy was specifically trying to throw people off, do smoke screens, it seems like, and they got him. So law enforcement's use of public genealogy databases is increasingly common, but still controversial, exactly like we just talked about. Yeah, so it's as simple as that. So, I mean, it's good. It solves murders. It gets... terrible people caught. So, I mean, that's worth it. As an American, I think we can all talk until we're blue in the face about privacy and how it's a little hinky that now all of us without our permission, our genealogy is on file to be reviewed. But that's a different conversation. And like I said, maybe I'll do a separate video about that. Idaho residents, this is from the AP, Associated Press. Shoot. Well, all these links, all these sources are actually in the bottom. I meant to verbally shout out that first one, but I already clicked out of it. But you'll see all these links. They're all in the bottom. There's 4 in total. This one is from the AP through Yahoo News. It says, Idaho residents relieved after suspect's arrest. 28. It's incredible. Like a young PhD student. Let's see. I mean, you can get a PhD starting in 23. So maybe not young, but kind of. And that's actually a pretty... short, actually. I'm not sure where the rest of this article is, so moving on. This is the one that really impressed me. So, never before seen photos and details about accused Idaho killer. And they pulled dash cam footage of him and his father being stopped on a road trip. And a combination of the DNA evidence and them. They did a tip line as well, where they're like, this specific make and model of car, do you know anyone in this area who might have that? And they got a bunch of tips, and they narrowed it down. I will also say in this dash cam that he's got that same stare, the alleged killer. In every picture, he's given this hard look. And so that's another thing that a lot of outlets have been covering. They said specifically that he was an overweight, nice kid, and then he came back, he lost 100 pounds, and he was hard, this brutalist, nihilist kind of personality. Like you think of an edgy kid or a kid who's going to go off the deep end at school or something. He kind of had that mood is what one account is saying. I mean, who knows, people could say that about anybody, but I will say in this random dash cam footage from much earlier, he's got that same look. He's got that same, I'll say, to me it's mean mugging, but And then, yeah, so this is another one. It's from the New York Times, a timeline of the night of the Idaho college murders. So this was November 13th, University of Idaho. And yeah, we didn't know anything. So like just until a week or two ago, and that's what gave me, I had to like consolidate my notes here. Another thing that came out, and I'm not sure if this was corroborated, but someone who was like held in the jail cell with him when he was just being held because he had just been arrested, was that he was really, really acting up. And there were claims, and this is an article I can find, or, if you Google this, you'll find it yourself, but that he was like removing clothes, he was shouting things. But every time we've seen him on camera, he seems very calm. And this, again, if this is the right person, this screams to me Ted Bundy, where he is just a true, when you think of like a movie sociopath, where he's gonna milk every opportunity. People were saying criminal justice, maybe he's trying for an insanity defense. I'm not sure if that's informed or not, but, if I thought I knew lots about criminal justice and I did this and I was trying to just juke everyone out, just fake them out, that's exactly what I would do. I would act up a little bit in prison just to get that in the mix, like that, he seems like maybe there's something wrong with him, arguably. And otherwise, just so cool, just like not talking, letting the lawyers do their thing. So, okay, all that. I'm going to put screen caps of these articles to give them due credit, and so you can read along while I talk. This is, again, my hope is to start doing some like short documentary style documentation, no sensationalism. And so leave in the comments if you felt like this was too much or too little. I'm trying to match, earlier in these I did very low energy because I was trying to be very respectful and very somber. But I've experimented with other channels and I've realized that you have to have a little bit of energy while you're talking or people won't listen to the video. So I'm doing my best. If I came off like too hyper or anything, it wasn't intentional. I'm just trying to dial in a respectful way to talk about this stuff. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe if you'd like to hear more, and I will update everyone soon. Good night.